Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. Just going to do one last follow-up video here, finishing up the HTML stuff. I counted and there's approximately 120 tags, of which let's talk about the ones we've talked about. Well, you know how to make a comment now that these are the delineators. A less than sign, exclamation point, minus minus starts the comment. A minus minus greater than sign ends the comment. We talked quite extensively about the doc type. Hopefully you all understand how to create a hyperlink. All right, there's an example. So if we do this, it comes up A for anchor, href for hypertext reference. You put the address in there, and then what comes before the minus A. All right. So for instance, we could have put this into a P tag, and we could have said, please click the following link to visit w3schools.com. We hope you enjoy it. All right, and then if we do that and run, see, we can put that any place. Okay, so the ABBR tag is used, as it says, if you want to do an abbreviation. So we can look at that. So why would you want to use that, or would you want to use that? Well, as it says, it defines an abbreviation. Okay, do you need to do that? Probably not. All right, the acronym tag is not supported anymore. It's been replaced by the ABBR tag, so let's forget that one. The address tag can be used to define contact information. Typically what you do is you might put, for example, someone's address, city, state, zip, maybe their phone number, etc. All that information, you would typically put that in between address, a beginning and an ending address tag. Okay, the applet tag is not supported any longer. Area, if you're using an image map, we talked a little bit about image maps, but not a lot. These two, article and aside, I'm going to put off for now because they're HTML5 specific tags. And they're the new way that talks about the semantic web. In other words, they're supposed to be tags that make things make a little bit more sense. But I'm going to describe them to you later on when we go over the St. Louis Blues Line site that we're going to create. The audio tag we just went over. The B tag we went over for bolding. Base specifies the base URL. I've never used that, so I don't know what that is. Base font, another one that's deprecated. BDI, I think that's bidirectional information. All right, so you can set the text. So if you were in an Eastern country that maybe went from right to left instead of left to right, you could do that. Big is no longer used. Block quotes, I think we looked at, but if we didn't. So if we do something like this, if we create a block quote, okay, it ends up becoming centered on the page. Okay. It's one of those tags that people used to abuse rather than use. People used it because it centered things on a page, which is silly. All right, body, we've looked at. BR is line break, we've looked at that. Button is if you want to create your own button. We'll get into that when we get into the JavaScript section. We just looked a little bit at canvas. We looked at caption when we talked about tables. The center is deprecated, shouldn't be used anymore. Cite, as mentioned, to define the title of a work. I don't really even use that. Code, if you want to have whatever you're working on look more like a monospace font, you can put code around it. Okay. Col for column groups. Data list is kind of a neat one here. We may or may not have looked at this, but let's go and grab this. And I'll even throw that way in here. I think hopefully I've taken everything that was in here and I've commented it out. Good. So let's paste that in. All right, so we've got an input list that says browsers on it. And it's going to be filled with this. And I want to show you how this is used. Now it's weird, I'm noticing that this, I'm trying to figure out why that data list is not highlighted and that one is. Input list equal browsers, data list. Scroll, Opera. Well, hopefully it'll still work, let's see. And it's not working, so there is still something, unless there's something up here that's script tag. There we go. All right. So let's run this. Okay, and it doesn't look like much right now, but notice if I type in I. Okay, I didn't get anything, which is a little strange. Let's do the try it yourself. All right, I'm just going to grab all of their code right here that they have. Everything. Copy it to the clipboard and replace what I have here. All right, so form, data list. So it'll be a form with a button on it. Note, strong, the data list tag is not supported by IE9 and earlier versions or in Safari. Okay, and I'm not using either, so that shouldn't be a problem. All right, so notice if I click down, it shows me all of the different browsers. But I want to come in here and I want to type in, an I. And it shows me all the browsers that have an I in them. Doesn't have to start with an I. How about an A? Opera and Safari. How about an E? Okay, so you get the idea as you take a look in here. The data list can be very nice if you've got a drop-down list and you want to give the user a way, for lack of better words, to kind of go through it quickly. DD we went over in our definition list. The DEL tag we went over. Details I've never used. Defines additional details that a user can view or hide. DFN, never used. Dialog defines a dialog box or window. Notice it's an HTML5 tag, but I've never used it. DIR, not supported in HTML5, use ULs. Okay, we've used divs. We did a DL, we did a DT, we did the M. I did show you the embed, whether you realized it or not, when we looked at the iframe. We looked at it embed. All right, I showed you the field set. If you put an image on a page, you can surround that image with figure tags. Let's go back to what we did a long time ago. Let me take this and comment it out. And that script tag, I just want to grab that because it shouldn't be here. It should be there. Okay, But I want to go way back to where we had that image tag a long time ago. I don't know where it is. Well, here, we'll grab any one of these. That's fine. Okay? So we're going to grab this image tag that you see right here, and I'm going to okay, remember this from before, and it should come up if I bring this up right now. There's our image. Good. All right, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this entire image tag and I'm going to surround it. I'm going to put it into what's called a figure tag. Okay, move all this stuff over. Finish my figure tag here. But before I do finish, I'm going to add one more tag here. And it's called a fig caption tag. Cute little puppies walking. And then I will end my fig caption tag. All right, and let's bring this up. And you see we get a little caption. Okay? It's just something that was added for HTML5. Is that a big thing? Of course not. But again, I'm trying to show you what I might have missed before with you. So, font we've looked at. A lot of different font properties. Okay. Footer we've looked at. Form we looked at. Frame has been deprecated. Frame set has been deprecated. We looked at the H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6 tags, so we looked at all of those. All right. We looked at the head tag. The header tag is one of those, again, header, footer, nav, aside, article, and section. I'm going to talk about those when we get and start actually creating our website. So, sorry about that. HR is kind of a neat one. It's a horizontal rule tag. So, if you put in an HR tag, this is what you get. A horizontal rule. And you can go in and there are parameters that you can set for that. For instance, if you don't want it to be, you can do the width, the size, etc. So notice none of them are supported in HTML5. But there are ways that you can use CSS and play with that. So if you don't want it to go across the whole screen, it doesn't have to. We talked about the HTML tag. We talked about the I tag. Again, it's old, but it's still used. We talked about the iframe tag when we looked at iframes. We looked at the image tag. We've looked at input tags. We did the INS tag. KBD, as it says, defines keyboard input. Okay. I think that's meant, again, to kind of look like it comes from a keyboard. It said it's not deprecated, but you get better effects with CSS. We looked at, I've never used keygen for key pair generator for forms. We looked at labels. We looked at legend. We looked at LI. I showed you the link tag, but we're going to use that more when we start to create the actual spreadsheet. Main is another one of those HTML5 tags that we will look at when we get into article and section and all the other stuff. Map is for image maps, which we may or may not have even looked at. That's not really that important. If you do want to look at an image map and see what it's like, okay, the idea is sun, I don't know if that's Mercury or what, and Venus type of an idea. So you get different things depending on, a popular thing for an image map is a map of the United States where you can click on any state and bring up the home page for that state. Okay? And using the map tag is part of what you do in order to do that. You have an area tag, you set up coordinates, you tell it the type of shape you want to use, etc. Mark tag we looked at. Menu, as it says, defines a list or a menu of commands. There's other ways of doing that. Menu items. Metadata is data about data. We'll look more at meta tags. We looked a little bit at the meta tag. I showed that to you earlier. You may or may not remember that, but I mentioned right when we started, there was our meta tag. That was an example of a meta tag that said we were using the 8-bit, Uniform Transformation Format, UTF, which means that we're using Unicode. Okay. Meter defines a gauge on a page, so you can do this if you want to show something like maybe how close you were to meeting a goal, whatever that happened to be. The nav we're going to look at later, I already mentioned. No frames, not supported in HTML5. No script is what you can put in if you want to, in case someone has turned JavaScript off. Okay. Object for embedded objects, I'm not going to hit on that. We looked at ordered lists. Opt group, I never used. Options, that was used with the select statement when we did the state thing for our form. Output you can use for defining the results of a calculation, never used it. I believe that if you're going to do that, you have to grab some JavaScript. Okay, don't know what that's doing. Right. P for paragraph we looked at. Param, don't really use. Picture defines a container for multiple resources. Pre-tag for pre-formatted text. Progress if you want to create a progress bar. Okay, very similar to the things we looked at earlier. Q for a quotation. I've never used RP or RT or Ruby, so I'm not sure what those do. You can read that yourselves. S tag defines text that's no longer correct. Sample for sample output from a computer program. Script we looked at a little bit for JavaScript. We'll look at it much more in the JavaScript section. Section, again, we'll cover later. Select was used with the option tag. Small is used in our footer. We looked at that already. Source, we did look at whether you realize it or not, because we looked at the source when we went down and, we looked at our audio and video controls. Both had source. Oops, do that. Span, we've looked at a little bit at the beginning, and you're going to look at it a lot more with CSS. Strike has been deprecated. Strong we looked at. Style we'll look at more with the CSS section. Sub we looked at. Summary, as it says, a heading for a details element. We may look at that later. Sup we looked at. Table we looked at. Table body we looked at. Table data we looked at. Text area we didn't look at that, but if you look in here, I wanted to show you this. If I go back to where we had this form that we did, if you remember the form that we did before, okay? And if I come down and I'm going to put in here, let's put another couple break tags, and we'll put in here text area, rows equal 10, 10, cols equal 5. Let's put a label in there first for it. We'll call this comments. And we put in the rows, we put in the columns, and then we'll end the text area. I just want to show you this for completeness sake. All right, so let me remove that. And Okay, so we've got this form here to which I've just added, we don't need this paragraph here. So I want to see if I've got anything else that's still, nope, that should do it. So if you look down on the bottom, I guess I needed to make that wider, but you get the idea. Let's make it a lot wider so you can see what I'm talking about here. So I said rows are 10, columns are 5. I should have at least reversed that. Let's make this 50, 55. All right, and then we'll come back so you can see it in action. Let's refresh. There you go. So that's a text area that you can type in whatever you want. Okay. All right. T-foot is used with tables, so is TH and T-head. Time is new. It allows you to define date, time information. Notice we open at 10 every morning, how that says that. So let's look at that. It doesn't really look any different, but you're sending a subliminal signal to the browser that it's a time value or that it's a date time value. Title, we looked at the title of the document, TR for table row. Text tracks, never use this. TT is old and it's gone. Now U, that's interesting, this used to be underlined and then it was deprecated, but now as it says there, and I don't use it, but it says defines text that should be stylistically different from normal text. Interesting. UL for an unordered list we looked at. var if we want to define a variable. You can see it looks like by default it's going to take it and make it italicized. Video tag we looked at, and WBR means a possible line break. Never use that, not sure what it is. Okay. All right, so what I've tried to do here is to go over the majority of the 120 or so tags that are in here that you're going to use most often. I probably hit on around 75% of them. What I'm going to do next is, instead of going over this on W3 Schools, I'm going to start going over CSS. All right, and I'll do the same kind of thing where I'll go over the major CSS properties. Then when I get done, I'll come back up to this page and try to see if there's anything I missed. A lot of stuff here. Okay, so I'll be back with that shortly.